right? Now, chat, if there was a poll, hey, should we make mantras deal 80% less damage? And 80% of it got yes. Should they really do that? Probably not, right? That's a big ass nerf for mantras. But it could get enough votes. Maybe it could even be like 60%, 40%. Maybe people are tired of mages and they vote that, right? Does that mean that we nerf on, you know what I'm saying, right? So, I think, truth be told, right, there is like, it's Debuggin's one probably the hardest games to really do a lot of big nerfs and changes for, because here's the truth. You nerf anything in Deep, some nigga will complain and some nigga will say it's a bad change. Chat, a lot of people can agree. I won't say all. A lot of people can agree, back then especially, Sol Commits is probably one of the cheesiest ways to play Debug. And a lot of people argue it's not very skillful. There's not a lot, it's not really, you can avoid active parry training and still get a lot of value, right? Something like that exists in the game. And you can touch and change the mechanic of it, and people will swear on everything that the game got ruined. Why is this thing getting... What about this thing? This thing is actually busted and they're nerfing this. There's so many things people say that they try and like divert. They're like, well, if this is getting nerfed, that definitely needs to get nerfed. Or it's like, why? That wasn't even that busted. What? And so it's like there's so many things in Debug, and that's just like it's tough to like. That's why I said how are you gonna ask the community about like a nerf on a, like that's why I said like what are you gonna poll? Hey guys, does Silent Heart need a nerf? Yes or no? And there's so many different responses to that. How do you even? So that's why I'm just like I understand where bro's coming from, and I actually agree with this on when it comes to polls regarding content itself. I actually agree that if they poll for it, it would be nice if they stuck to it, and in this case they did. I remember a lot of people clowning on them back then for saying like, we're getting conquest first, should have been award events, and then we got award events first. So it's nice how that turned out. But in my opinion, what's it called? I think that at a certain point when it comes down to like certain things, it's just like you ask the community, and like their opinion last week could be different from the opinion this week, and there's so many. It's very difficult, in my opinion. Where are the flame nerfs or the katana nerfs? Only fixing move stack animations.
Where is the katana nerfs? When are they fixing move stacking and the animations? When are they gonna look at bug reports? When will they fix HP and mages doing
so much damage, having insane throughout. This game is awful right now. Yeah, so what's it called? Yeah, flame nerfs, I agree. I wanna see more what's it called? I wanna see some pretty big flame mage nerfs. Katana nerfs, honestly katana got nerfed, but here's what I'll say about katana. Truth be told, right? I'll say this. Katana is strong when you're a better player. I think katana is like one of those things where it's like, yes, it's strong. Don't get twisted. And it's the most used weapon, I think, in the game, right? But it's a very solid basic choice. Do you see what I mean? It's a very solid basic choice. And I understand that, you know, obviously, you can even argue the same thing with obfuscation. But this is the thing, right? This is the thing I'll say, is that both obfuscation and katana, obfuscation on katana, those are just solid M1 choices to abuse hitting block, right? Now, you can argue if hitting block itself is a bust mechanic, but a lot of people will say that it's not unskilled to use katana. People will say it's not unskilled to use obfuscation. There's a lot more things I consider unskilled or very easy to play that get a lot more value than a katana, right? And so, flame mage and katana are like two completely different categories in my opinion, right? I think katana is just a lot more respectable. Some people might argue it's not, but I think it is. Maybe somebody argues when you like flick away with the katana and you delay the crit. In my opinion, debug combat has been that. Even people complain about that. A lot of debug combat has just been abusing the parry cooldown. Truth be told, that is a bulk of the combat today, especially with better players, is just abusing parry cooldowns. And the block frames at the end of things. If block frames were removed from debug, it would greatly change up what is used, in my opinion. Right? It would greatly change up. A lot of the time, you get a lot of value off of hitting block off the end of a parry, right? And there's a lot of things that you can do because of that, right? Get behind block very easily. But if it, what's it called? If it was parry frames instead, how it was in verse 1, it would be a lot different, in my opinion. You wouldn't see people manage fitting into M1 so much because people just parry it. They dead ass would just parry and then dodge it. It would be super defensive focused, right? So that's, consider that, chat. Consider that it's just like, it's very, very like, I think we're in a much more of an offensive era today than what's it called, than before. And the truth is, first one was very defensive, very, very defensive. Now people say they want to go back, right? People do say they want to go back, and honestly, if they did, I wouldn't mind trying it out, right? But I think people will be a lot more disappointed for some people. It depends on what you use, right? But it's like people have gotten, I think, good enough, especially in the higher tiers of gameplay, have gotten good enough to where it will just dead ass be parry until Chime comes in, or till the storm comes in, right? People have almost perfected defense, right? And that's with old parry cooldown. Maybe they nerf all the, and it's like, and that's, you know what I'm saying, right? You have matches that can end very quickly because obviously things that are very overtuned right now. But besides that, I think there's a lot of things at the moment that are of the result of the verse 2 change to begin with. And if we were to go back on it, I think we would see a very different era. And in my opinion, you would honestly, I think you would just see a lot, honestly, potentially more mage use, in my opinion. I think you would potentially see more mage use because you rely a lot more on things that go through parry or things that are like giant AoE and maybe you're not paying attention to, right? Why would you M1 parry trade when defense is perfect? Think about that, chat, right? Unless they nerf all the busted stuff right now that's super cheese. Even back then, a lot of people tend to forget this. Even back then in verse 1, it's not like mages didn't exist. Yes, M1 builds are very powerful, but there was a lot of busted shit with mages back then. It's just that a lot of it was either A, undiscovered, or B, it was being used, but it just wasn't. I think a lot of people just weren't as skilled back then, and there wasn't a lot of people who were hyper focused on being able to optimize a build as we are now. And so to get the perfect build in verse 1, you would have to wipe your build over and over again. Try bringing that back in an era where you can Shrine of Chant, you have, what is it called? Moon's Eye Tomes, you have things like Aces, etc., right? You will be fighting perfected builds on perfect defense. And you'll be like, damn, these matches, I'm telling you, bro, I feel like people are going to be like, I know it's annoying, but I also feel like people will be annoyed as well with just how, like, it's like, I can't hit anything on this dude. And it's like, well, bro, it's back to the old parry cooldown. You can parry everything again. And it's like, some people will like that, but I think a lot of people will eventually, over time, will come to not really like it as much. I'm keeping it a buck. And I think a lot more people will actually start to go towards the mage thing to try and break through that perfect defense, in my opinion. How's Roblox development going? Oh, it's going great, buddy. Trust me, it is going good. I disagree with your last balance list with lowering damage modifiers because damage modifiers would make people go more M1 base builds rather than mage damage. I disagree. I think you can very easily get multipliers on. Bro, I literally just made a progression showcasing you can get 180, 90 damage managers with damage multipliers on. It's like, it's not one way or the other, bro. It's not one way or the other. And also, in my opinion, like M1 builds aren't as reliant on damage multipliers either because you'll be having the speed demon proc, which doesn't count towards. It doesn't proc on, you don't have bleed on managers. There's only like Iron Sing and maybe Gale if that bug exists. For most mages, there's not bleed on their stuff. M1 builds have bleed on their M1s, right? Which doesn't count towards the cap. So if anything, you're going to be able to have more damage almost on your M1s if the cap is lowered because, what's it called? It's a lot harder to, in my opinion, get above multiplying manager damage, in my opinion, right? But it's still very possible. I just think that, what's it called? I think regardless, you shouldn't be able to build up to 75% more damage. A lot of people don't realize that that's a shit ton. Even 50% more damage is a lot more damage, chat. Imagine something that dealt 10% damage to you, it just dealt 15. Bro, now imagine that happening 3 times in a row. Instead of taking 30% damage, you took 45. Like, it compounds so greatly. A lot of people, you gotta realize, man, that damage multiplier, I think, has been a long time issue.
If y'all enjoyed the video, make sure to go click on these other videos, man. And I'll see you guys later. Peace.